in college, like, there's certain classes where you're just like, I'm just going to take it to get the good grade, right? But then there's other classes that you take genuinely because you're like, this sounds very, very interesting. You're going to take the extra time to talk to that professor or work a little bit more on that project or paper that you have. And those are the things you want to pay attention to because that's kind of like yourself telling you, like, this is interesting. Like, maybe I should look into this more.
Hello, and welcome to the Patient to the Professional podcast. My name is Dr. Nick Despotidis, and I've had the privilege of examining thousands of children through the years who are now wonderful adults. Today, I'm so happy to have my patient, Audrey Jung, to my office. Audrey is an investment banker, and when I examined her recently, she was kind enough to offer her insight into her career. Audrey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us does your average day look like? And why don't you start off maybe about what do you do and what does your average day look like?
Yeah, sure. So, as an investment banking analyst, you work on a variety of different projects in a day. Typically, that generally the job involves advising companies on, strategic or financial, like large financial or strategic decisions that can change the trajectory of a company's life. And so specifically as an analyst, you work on a couple of different projects a day. This can range from live deals where you're actively working on a company and a transaction, or prospecting or pitching deals and looking into potential ideas that a company could explore.
Whoa, slow down there. Wow, that sounds really exciting, but just slow down a little bit because it does sound like you said it can change the trajectory of a company. So break it down for us that are not familiar with the financial industry. What does your day look like? Like, are you looking at Excel spreadsheets? Are you looking at projections? Are you looking at profit and loss statements?
Yeah, so essentially, a lot of the times, the files that we look like at our presentations from a company, just showing what the company does, kind of what its value proposition is, why it's doing well in its industry, and kind of an overview of industries.
So, in other words, they're asking you for money?
No, so we essentially are just providing them advice on what to do with their money.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Very good. So, you're consulting with them.
Yes, financial consulting in a way. So basically, if they're thinking about, oh, should we acquire this company or should we sell ourselves to another company or should we, raise a certain amount of debt, or should we, take a different type of like strategic decision?
So, are you vested in the company financially? Is your company financially vested? No. So, they're hiring you for your expertise,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
So, what are you looking at to help advise them which way to go, either to take on more debt or to, like you said, go public or get investors? What are you looking at specifically to help them make a decision that's right for them?
We typically look at their, financial statements. So this could be their profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow, and then even more granular data. So such as like inventory, or just customer data to help them figure out at what point they are in their lifetime as a company and what is the correct decision to make at this point in time.
Wow. So do right now at your place in your career, do they give you a specific company to consult with, or you're just one piece of an overall picture to help this company? Like, what's your accountability?
Yeah, so typically, as an investment banker, you're just one piece of the puzzle. There are lawyers involved, there's tax experts, there's other financial consultants or regular consultants involved, all in one big transaction. But as an investment banker, you're mainly advising on the financial piece. Does this make sense financially to make this decision? Do the financials look right? Like, are we ready as a company to, either go public, take on more debt, or acquire another company?
And do you have people under you right now at your stage of your career?
Yes, so I am a senior analyst, so that means I have a junior analyst underneath me, and then typically above you, you have an associate, a vice president, a managing director, and sometimes, depending on the structure of the bank, a senior managing director. So you work on pretty small teams, and so that's why investment banking gets the rep that you work longer hours because you don't have as many team members to cover as much work that you need to do.
So that's a really good point because I've interviewed one of my patients who's a corporate banker, and she would say IA, investment banking, or IB rather. Do you want to review for the audience what's the difference between an investment banker and maybe a corporate banker?
Yeah. So with a corporate banker, you typically work a little more regulated hours, essentially because a lot of the times you're a larger institution and you're providing your own money, or like the company's money to help your client. As an investment banker, typically, you're providing just advice, and a lot of times you're working on tighter deadlines, than a corporate banker is necessarily. So just to provide kind of like an example, let's say company A wants to buy company B, but they want to buy them by, let's say June 1st, because they have a certain deadline that they need to meet. Within the time frame from the end of March to June 1st, as an investment banker, what you need to do, as a firm is not just like understand what the situation is, make sure it makes sense financially, being able to line up all the different, parts of a deal, and complete it by June 1st. Whereas with a
Wow.
corporate banker, you might have also the same deadlines, but there's not as much, diligence per se. And diligence means like just digging into the details, making sure everything makes sense, compared to an investment banker. I think that's kind of the difference between the two.
So it sounds like you said, investment banking. When I hear that, I hear high stress, long hours, type A personality. And you're saying, if I read you correctly, well, we may work long hours because of deadlines and small, tight staffing. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you have one person under you right now,
Yeah.
and then you have at least one or person directly above you.
Yeah.
And so give us an idea of your typical day. Are you presenting to clients? Are you going through P&Ls? What does your typical day look like?
Yeah. It's hard to say what a typical day looks like. Every day is a little bit different, but I'd say typically you're always either on call with your clients, or investors, or you're working together with your associate or junior analyst, putting together an analysis, for something that you need to present or understand. You're also, consulting with other teams within your firm or your managing director, just thinking about what the next steps are, and what we want to do next to make sure that we're getting the project moving along smoothly.
So you're dealing directly with a lot of the clients.
Yes.
And the clients, are you dealing with the CEOs or their financial team or the person that's in charge of this decision making? Who are you dealing with?
Yeah, typically it would be the CFO, and the CFO's team. And then depending on the type of, transaction that they want to pursue, like the corporate development team. And essentially a corporate development team is their internal kind of banker or consultant that figures out what the next steps of a company are. And obviously the ultimate decision maker is typically the CFO.
Okay. So your day can be a bunch of meetings, either with your team or with the client. And I'm assuming spending some time analyzing, right?
Yeah.
Checking the junior person's work as well as your own
Yeah.
work and presenting it to your upper level manager.
Mhm. Yes.
So are your days long? What time will you start on a typical day and what day will it end?
Yeah, sure. So typically I'd say I get to the office around 9:30, but before 9:30, even when I wake up, I do check my work emails to make sure there's nothing really, really pressing. And then I typically end my work days around midnight. It isn't unusual for it to go past midnight, unfortunately. And typically you're basically on call all 7 days of the week, but typically Saturdays are a lighter day. But yeah, working, 14 hours a day for 6 days a week is not unusual sometimes.
Wow, that then your reputation is appropriate. That's amazing. So when you say you can work until midnight, I'm assuming you're working at home. Are you working mainly from home or do you go into the office?
So I'm fortunate enough that my firm allows me to work from home, past a certain time. When once the upper levels go home, I typically go home around 8 or 9 p.m. depending on the night. Some other teams like to stay in the office and they do stay in the office until post midnight. It's just really dependent on your team, but I've just been fortunate enough where I'm able to work from home on those later hours.
That I guess so. And are you able to go out for an errand during lunch? I know that sounds funny. Are you able a doctor's appointment, or pretty much you have eyes watching on you and you really are working? Are you able to kind of get out a little bit?
I think it depends on, kind of what you're working on. Like if it's a really pressing matter and it's been like this for the past couple of weeks, then maybe not. But, as you could become more senior and you get a feel for like how your team is and your team, has respect for you, it's a lot easier for you to have
Sure.
doctor's appointments, go run your
Right.
errands when you need to. You also just get better at your job and you understand how long it'll take you to complete a task. So it's a lot easier to structure your day. Like, for example, when I went to see you last week, like I knew that I could get my work done and still come see you for my regular checkup.
So let's talk about that. How long did it take you to get to the level of senior management that you're in right now? How many years?
So I've been working for the past year and a half or so.
Wow. That
Yeah.
sounds like a short time, is it?
Yes. And I'd say with banking, a lot of the time there is hierarchy, but at the same time, like you're able to take on a lot more responsibility if you're able to take on more. And people do give you that opportunity to show, or yeah, people do give you the opportunity to take on more responsibility if you would like.
So you had to work really hard. So did you hire your junior investment banker? Were you part of the interview process, someone that's working under you now, or did they assign someone to you to work under you?
I was part of the hiring process. We were mainly kind of the first round screening, just making sure that, these candidates had the basics down. They had, the work ethic and they had the grit to really like do this job. And then eventually later on, when they got placed into the group, it was someone was assigned to me mainly, just based off like what their interests were, and, just availability at the time.
So, this podcast really was created to help high school and college students kind of find their career path by listening to yours. If there is someone who is interested in investment banking and is interviewing with you, what are you looking for? Are you looking at their CV or their resume? Do you go on their LinkedIn? Or are you just going by how this person presents themselves? Do they do it virtually or do they do it in person? Give the student an idea of what the process is like and what you are looking for.
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination of all the factors. Definitely resume and LinkedIn are important. Just being able to show like what you've done in the past and are you truly interested in pursuing this career is something that I think is very important. And obviously, like, per face-to-face interaction is very important. Like, especially since this job is client facing, like, are you professional enough? Do you have those skills to be able to talk to a client intelligently, be able to present yourself well? And also just are you able to, face pressure and work under pressure really well and also work collaboratively because a lot of this job is working together
Sure.
with other people.
So, when you say professionally, is it the way an applicant looks, the way they dress, the way they shake your hand, the way they look at you when they're talking? I really want you to kind of internally think about what are you looking for when they walk in the room and they say hello to you? What determines professionalism on your end? What do you perceive as professional?
Yeah, appearance is definitely important. Looking the part of the job is always important. I think the second thing is, having that confidence in yourself, and really believing that, like I am very good for this job, like this is my position, and knowing your stuff, I think is really, really important. A lot of this job is like you learn it on the spot, and so no one comes in being a genius and knowing everything. So a lot of times it's just like are you ready? Like, are you determined? Are you confident in your skills?
What does look the part mean? Help me out because I sometimes I interview doctors, and to be honest with you, I'm taken back of the casual dress sometimes, the appearance. Again, I'm older. What do you look for? What does look the part from your perspective mean?
Yeah, I think, well, especially with like financial services and banking, typically, it's business professional wear with which means like suits for guys and then like a blazer, pants, or a skirt for girls. And just looking like presentable and like clean and neat in front of like that you took time to get ready today.
Okay,
That's mainly what
got
it
it.
means.
Not disheveled, not like I'm 2 hours late and things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you look at the grades? Like what to in your perspective? Because I would think this is a really hard job to fill. On one end, it seems to me you need someone intense, grit, hardworking, but you also need to be collaborative. You need to get along with people. Sometimes those two attributes are not, they don't align. Is that correct? Like someone
Yeah.
who's career driven may not know how to work in a team. Have you
Yeah.
found that?
Yes, that's actually something that a lot of the times in interviews we do screen for. So interviews for banking, just for context, half will be technical, meaning do you understand the basics of accounting, like financial valuation? And the other half is just behavioral questions, meaning like tell me about a time you worked in a team. Like, how do you handle pressure? Tell me about a time you made a mistake. What are your greatest accomplishments? Just seeing how you present yourself and also how you act in different types of situations.
Right. So it all comes down to how they answer it, not only the language they use to answer it, it's how they answer it. Are they confident and are they sincere?
Yes.
So now, how did you in a year and a half become this senior analyst? Is it hours? Is it grit? Is it uh, completing projects on time? Give me a little bit of taste of someone that's career driven like yourself.
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is just being able to be excited and ready every day, putting in that effort, and just showing up to work, ready to do the work. A lot of the times, like you're not going to know what you're doing or you're doing something for the first time. And a lot of people just want to see that you're trying and that you're able to like apply your knowledge of what you've learned to do your task. I'd say another thing is, always asking for feedback and improving upon that feedback. And so every time I've worked on a project with someone, I've always asked for feedback like, hey, like, what do you think I could have done better? What do you think I did really well? And taking that feedback and really putting effort into working on it into the next time.
So it's looking for constructive criticism for help. Don't be afraid of it. And don't be afraid of making mistakes. I'm sure you've made plenty. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. The only way I think you really learn is by making mistakes and learning from them and correcting them.
How do you do that if you're a good student and you've always had a good GPA and and all of a sudden you go into the real world and the real world is you got to make mistakes because that's the only way you learn. How did you transition from a very good student to someone who is very vulnerable and makes mistakes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say it is a very hard transition to make, and that this is why a lot of people say your first year out of college at your first job is one of the hardest years. It's a complete mindset shift, right? You're not working for yourself anymore. You're working for yourself, your team, and your company. And so you really have to get into this growth type of mindset where you're just thinking about like how can I be better for not just myself but also my team and to make whatever we're doing better. And a lot of the times it's like putting aside your pride and ego and just trying to absorb as much information as possible. And being okay with making mistakes does take a lot of adjustment. It took me over 6 months to really be able to appreciate that fact and really be able to adapt to it and be able to change. And so it's not like it happens overnight. It's definitely a iterative process where you learn day by day. And it also helps that, especially in my job, I have a lot of peers that are my age. And so a lot of the times when one of us faces frustration, it's really nice that we have someone to talk to or complain to because we have a
Okay.
similar experience.
Okay, so that's good. And are these friends in investment banking or in their investment banking, or are they in different areas, careers?
Yeah, a lot of them are actually within my firm right now. They're just in different groups.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so it's really nice that like I don't work with them like every single day, but sometimes we go on a walk together or we get grab lunch and just catch up.
Are they working from home also? Because I would think working from home or virtually is difficult to make those friendships, those coworker relationships.
Yeah, so we're in person 4 days a week and then work from home 1 day a week.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Monday through Thursday, I do get to see them. It also helped that I went through the internship with all of them together. So we were very close as
Ah,
interns.
okay. So is this your first job out of college?
Yes.
Okay. So before we go on, What drives you to work 12 hours? I've spoken to physicians and medical students, and they work the same hours, and they're like, listen, do not become a doctor for the money. That's a reoccurring theme. For you, what drives you? Is it a much higher salary for an investment banker or potential salary compared to a corporate lawyer that may go home at 6 o'clock?
For me, I think it's the opportunities that this position opens up for me after banking. So I will not lie, the pay is very nice. You do make a lot more than typical people your age, just because of the job and the intensity. But I think it opens a world of possibilities outside of that that I don't think any other job really can give you besides maybe consulting. Just for context, like you can continue working in investment banking if you choose to. You can go into an investing role where you're helping a company invest its money into different companies, and seeing the growth trajectory in that. Or you could even go work in-house in a different company. You could work at, I don't know, like what's a big company, like Comcast. Like you could go work at Comcast and help them with what their future strategy might look like. And I feel like working in banking itself, not only do you learn the skills of like looking at financial statements and understanding what it's telling you, but also you learn how to interact with different types of people and personalities, work under pressure, and work on a lot of things at once. And I think, that's not something I was able to learn in college. And you really only learn on the job. And I think it's a valuable skill set a lot of people and companies really appreciate, and it opens so many doors for you.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So it seems to me just listening to you, you like the pressure. You want to be under pressure. You want to perform under pressure. You want to excel under pressure. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think especially early on in your career is the time that you could really push yourself and see what you're capable of doing. And I think there's no other time than, your first few years out of college to really push yourself and see what you're able to achieve. And also like, what do you like? What do you want to pursue in the future? Like a career is very, very long. It's not just defined by your first 2 years, right?
That's
You
right.
have 30 to 40 years still left to work. So you might as well try as much as you can in your first few years.
To find what really aligns with your values in life, what really
Yeah.
motivates you. So let's talk about college. Did you always want to go to investment banking? How did you develop this desire? Where did you go to college? Give us a little background in your college life.
Yeah, so I went to UC Berkeley and I majored in business administration. And going into college, no, I did not even know what investment banking really was. It was not on the top of my mind. Going in, I thought I wanted to do marketing. So very, very different from what I ended up
Sure.
doing after college. And the reason why I ended up pursuing investment banking was mainly at college. Like it really introduced me to that world, and that was a possibility. Joining student clubs, and just learning from older members in my clubs and classes, and just understanding why they wanted to pursue different careers and their motivations helped me really determine that I thought like I would want to do banking after college. And then also for context, at like within the business school, you're able to take a lot of different classes. And so you can pursue different areas of business that like you think are interesting to you, and whatever resonates with you the most typically is something that like will drive you to pursue a certain career.
So you joined different clubs and you were in the business school of UC Berkeley
Yes.
and you just took different parts of business. And what clubs were you interested in taking, or which club really resonated with you? So I guess you weren't always in the library, weren't always in your dorm room. Tell us a little bit about the clubs.
Yeah. So honestly, like as a business student, I think the time that you like learn the most is like in your clubs and your classes, which is a little bit different from how, biology or like engineering works. Because I think a lot of the time business, you just learn from other people and their knowledge, rather than a textbook. And so for clubs, I joined a consulting club, and essentially what this club was doing was it was helping provide ideas or like strategy optionality for different companies, and we were working pro bono. And so it was just really interesting for the first time to be working for a corporation, in a different type of manner. And so that was where I was introduced to consulting and marketing.
Hmm.
And then besides that, I joined a finance organization, and it just gave me a really like high level overview what finance even is and what are the potential careers in finance, and exactly like what are the different roles and responsibilities and career trajectories. And also not just that, the business program I was in, they held a lot of events where they brought in alumni from UC Berkeley in different career paths, where they were able to talk about what they did, what they ended up pursuing, and why they liked their jobs, and if they would have done anything differently as well.
Very good. Did you do internships? Did you have the opportunity your between first and second year, did you do an internship or between second and third?
So I did an internship during my fall semester of my sophomore year, so my second year. I worked at a family office, kind of more of like a private equity type of role. And this is kind of like investing that family's own money into different types of businesses and looking at different opportunities. And then after that, between my second and third year of college, I worked as a corporate development intern at Indeed, the job board. And this was more evaluating how can Indeed partner with different organizations to pursue different types of initiatives. And so specifically, what I was looking at was the possibility of using non-traditional education and helping job seekers upskill, meaning like, you don't have to go to a 4-year college to be able to get a data science job. Like you can attend different, like a coding camp or a different type of program where you're able to learn those skills, but also still be employable. And those were really interesting internships, really helped me understand what I might think is interesting down the line in my career. And then in between my junior year and my senior year of college is when I did my investment banking internship with the company I am at now. And that was my like first like real kind of look into the world of investment banking.
Right.
And I really enjoyed my internship. I thought it was super interesting, fast paced. I was around a lot of really, really smart people. And I was like, this is, where I want to be. And it helps it was in New York City. And so I decided to come back full time and here that's where
That's
I'm at
great.
now.
So it seems to me what attracted you is the high pace, working around very intelligent people. I bet you like working in teams. You like having this team effort also. Is there any other attributes that really attracted you to investment banking? Is it the thrill of closing a deal or the thrill of, capturing a client and the client congratulating you? What really non-tangibles attracted you to investment banking?
Yeah, I think just the opportunity to learn a lot about just how finance works. Like, I think from an outside perspective, like every time people think about investment banking or like, financial markets, they're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. It's just a bunch of numbers and colors, red, white, like
Right, right.
stocks. And so I think like I really just wanted to understand that fundamentally myself, and be able to be in that world and be knowledgeable. Because if one day I were to run a business or have my own business, the basis of it is just being able to understand financially how does a business work and how do you make it successful.
Wow, fantastic. So let's go backwards a little bit more to high school now. Were you thinking about marketing? Were you a social person in high school? Were you a very academic? Obviously, you must have been. Bring us back to, it's probably a long time ago, but bring us back in high school, maybe 10th, 11th grade. Where was your mind? Were you nervous about school or where were you?
Yeah, I was definitely very nervous about college and getting to somewhere I would like, and also that like I think would help me, in my future. At the point of my sophomore year, I was not set on any career at all. I was still exploring,
Sure.
maybe do I want to be a doctor? Maybe do I want to do business? Maybe I want to be a lawyer. Like still very, very open in terms of like all the different career paths. And I think for me, it was half of it was like just taking your classes in high school, what genuinely interested me more than other classes. And also just like in my free time, just being able to understand like I watched a lot of YouTube videos too, like just seeing people in college like making day in the life videos about like what they were doing and what seemed interesting to me. And so for me, I rolled out medicine very fast because I could not deal with biology and like what is it called? Dissections. I just could not deal with that. So I ruled it out very fast, unfortunately. It's still very interesting field, but I don't think I could deal with the
So that left
yeah.
business and maybe law,
Yeah, that
right?
left business and law. And then so with law, like from what I understood was like there was a lot of like, you have to create a lot of arguments, you have to read a lot, you have to be really knowledgeable about every aspect of the law. And it seemed cool to me, but it wasn't my calling. There was nothing really like pushing me to pursue that. I thought it was very cool and I would want to take a couple of classes in college, but maybe not something I really, really want to pursue in my future. And then with business, I thought it was super interesting because I've always liked problem solving. That's why I liked, math as a subject in school. That's why I liked reading about history, right? It was a lot about problem solving and how do you find the best solution. And for business, it was really just fundamentally what is the best solution for my business problem and how do we grow from here? And so I always thought that was interesting. And the most exposure I had obviously was marketing, because marketing is all around us every day. And so
Right, right.
I thought it might be something cool to pursue in college. And it's also business is a very open field. So if you were to go to college for business, there's a lot of things you could apply that for. You could go into business marketing, you could go into finance, consulting, business technology, if you have some sort of technical skill as well. So that's why I ended up pursuing business as like my major in college. And as a junior and senior, when I was thinking of applying to colleges, my kind of objective was to apply for business.
So when you applied to UC Berkeley, it was to the business school.
Yeah, so at the time, it's a little bit different now. So at the time, the business school was typically only a 2-year program, but I applied to like a special program called the Global Management Program. And it's a small cohort of students, and you study abroad your first semester of
Wow.
college. And I thought this was a super unique opportunity. And I've always had some interest in, potentially working abroad internationally in the future, or just even studying abroad as a student, right? Because I've grew up in the US all my life and I wanted to see the outside world. And so, yeah, that's why I ended up applying to that program for UC Berkeley. And fortunately, I was admitted as a freshman into the business school and I studied abroad my first semester. And then, besides UC Berkeley, right, I was considering a lot of different colleges, both East and West Coast, mainly applied for business, if they had like a business undergrad program.
So in high school, how did you obtain your social skills? Because clearly, what you made clear to all of us is you have to be smart, you have to like pressure, you have to really want the ball when the game is on the line, but you also have to articulate it two ways to your superiors, actually, three ways to your superiors, to your customers, and also to your subordinates now. What do you attribute your social skills to? I know you couldn't study that. Did you play sports? Did you do acting, drama? Where did your social skills come from?
Yeah, same thing with college. Like you got to join a lot of clubs in high school. This also helps you figure out what you want in the future. So I was an athlete as well. I swam all throughout high school. I was also a musician. So I played cello for 4 years in high school. So I was in an orchestra. And then besides that, miscellaneous clubs here and there. And it helped that I had a lot of friends in these clubs. And so a lot of times it was just like having fun with them, but also like doing a lot of cool things.
So, when you played the cello, obviously you did a lot of competitions, I would think, because you played 4 years, or no? Did you do a lot of?
I Yeah, I was in a youth orchestra that
Okay.
was like in the region.
And same thing with swimming. Did you do any competitions at that point, or is just exercise?
Yeah, no, I was on the school swim team, and so we would have like swim meets every week with like different schools in the area.
Were you competitive? I'm just wondering.
I was competitive, but I was not good.
That's okay.
I mainly did it because, like I wanted to diversify the types of activities I was in, and also, being active is always very good. And also, team sports are always really good for you, just to be able to take a break from school and, grades and thinking about tests.
And that's important because a lot of times I do tell my patients, listen, it's not only good for your eyes, it's good for your mental state to walk, to exercise, to find something other than didactic. It seems like you've always put that in your academic career, whether it's high school or college, you fit in some time for clubs and some activities.
Yeah, I think it's super, super important, especially now that there's just so much pressure that students give themselves, especially in high
Yes.
school, to get the best grades, to get into the best college. But I think it's also important that you take some time for yourself every day or even just once a week to really just either go on a walk, hang out with your friends, just do something that doesn't involve school so you can truly appreciate what you have around you and also think about what you want in your future.
Isn't that easier said than done? I agree with you. And every interviewee that I've interviewed has said the same thing is you got to make time for yourself in high school. Everything will work out. But when you look back at your 17-year-old self, if you were talking to her right now, would she listen to you? Would she make the time to decompress one day a week and think about her future or hang out with her friends?
Yes, I actually did. That was something I think my parents really emphasized with me too. They said that you can have a lot of pressure on yourself, but at the same time, you need that balance. And so, a rule that I made for myself was, every day I'd have dinner with my parents, but we weren't allowed to have our phones, no like schoolwork or anything at the table, just like us three. And we would like talk to each other about our
Wow.
days and what happened. And then also Friday nights, right? Like past 6 or 7 p.m. Unless I had like a lot of work to do that weekend or I had a lot of activities lined up, I would not touch schoolwork on Friday nights. That was like my time for myself to, watch TV, go hang out with friends, or just do something besides, homework and stuff like that.
So it seems like one resonating theme throughout your career is discipline, right? It seems like you put rules on yourself. On Friday, I'm going to decompress unless I can't. I'm going to have dinner with my family. I'm going to put technology aside for that just 20 minutes or so. And it seems like it's paid you forward. What I want two pieces of advice for you. I want you to speak to the student who's thinking about investment banking or banking in general in their high school or college, what advice you would give them. And we'll start with that. I'll give you the last one. What advice would you give to a student or someone who's a little lost, kind of likes math, kind of thinks banking's is something maybe they're interested in? What advice would you give them?
I think the first piece of advice I give is really talk to a lot of people who's in that profession or, have done that internship before to really understand, like, is this something that sounds like something I'd be interested in, or is it just something that I think would be good for me? There's a big difference between, what you think is good for you and what you want to do. So I think having those conversations and really understanding what you're going to get yourself into. And I think the second thing is, do you think pursuing this career will be beneficial for you in the long run? You don't have to think very far in advance, maybe just like a 2 to 3 year horizon, just like, will this profession do something for me that is beneficial for me? I feel like a lot of the times people will end up pursuing it and then realize this isn't for me and have to pivot later on and, have to spend money on a master's degree or an MBA and you have to pivot like 3 or 4 years into your career rather than, really taking the time to think about it in college. I think another thing is like, you do have to work hard to get an internship. A lot of it comes with like networking. And networking is essentially just being able to talk to a lot of people and get your foot in the door. And so like I think just being ready and prepared to like have those intelligent conversations, and being ready to interview whenever that time comes is super, super important.
That's a very good point. By the way, just as an aside, I think it's okay to pivot even a few years later. The saddest part is when I speak to people in their 40s and 50s that never had the courage to pivot. They realized early on, this is not for me. Maybe I'll keep it because of paycheck and really never realize happiness. So and
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah, yeah.
interesting that's a point I wanted to make. The last thing is what attributes do you now see yourself having that just made you enjoy this career? I mean, in this interview, you're so ambitious. Your enthusiasm, your drive just comes through the screen. Looking back, what attributes did you have that looking back you said, "Oh yeah, this was made for me."
I think just like the drive to like want to learn a lot more, and never settling, I guess is the biggest one. A lot of the times, like I feel like in college, like, there's certain classes where you're just like, I'm just gonna take it to get the good grade, right? But then there's other classes that you take genuinely because you're like, this sounds very, very interesting. You're going to take the extra time to talk to that professor or work a little bit more on that project or paper that you have. And those are the things you want to pay attention to because that's kind of like yourself telling you, like, this is interesting. Like, maybe I should look into this more. And I feel like a lot of the times, like, just that mentality of never settling and always wanting more is something that's super important. And not just investment banking, right? In any career at all, like having that extra motivation and drive, especially for things that you're passionate about, is super, super important. And I think the other thing is being able to like manage different projects and your stress levels is like a really important attribute because you want to avoid burnout. Any career you can get burnout, even as a high school, college student, you will face burnout. And just being able to like properly manage your time, and also give yourself enough time to do other things and have a life, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
I think are the two most important kind of like attributes.
Yeah, very, very helpful. You started out this interview by saying you start your day around 9:30, and you check your phone even before then for any fires that need putting out, and it ends at midnight. Now, to the casual listener, you're like, oh my God, I don't know how she does it. But listening to you, not only your voice, your tonality, your enthusiasm really does help the students listening to this program because if they're driven like you, you've motivated me to be more. To be more. I think that's a strong attribute, and you could see why investment banking is not for everyone, but it is a very exciting career for someone who is as career driven and really adrenaline driven as you are.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like, definitely not for everyone, and you definitely can
No.
try it out for a year and be like, this is not for me. Totally fine to pursue something else.
Yeah.
It does not mean by any means that you're a failure, just different people have different interests or goals in life.
Yep.
And I will say also, like, I do not intend to be an investment banker for life. This is really a career for me to understand what I like and what I want to do in the future and open doors. And I will say, like, it's not the most glamorous job. And there are times where I'm like, I don't like this job, like at all
Sure.
fundamentally. And also, like the 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. thing, that's not an everyday thing. Sometimes I get lucky and end at 7 p.m. and have to check my emails occasionally. It's not like this every day, but when it does get hard, it is a very, very hard job.
Yeah.
But you just have to like understand what you want and what your priorities are. And, just know that eventually everything will end up working out, as cheesy as that sounds.
Yep. It's true what you said. I mean, not every day is Disney World in medicine, but you have to know what you want. And then you can endure what you have to in medicine, investment banking, anything in life, if you know this is for you. So, to that end, Audrey, I want to thank you so very much. This was very, very beneficial for me, and I'm sure it's beneficial for hundreds, if not thousands, of other students listening because it is very transparent. It's a day in the life of an investment banker that's just starting her career. And I can't wait to interview you maybe in 5 or 10 years because I know you're not going to be in the same place, that's for sure. So,
Yeah.
so Audrey, thank you. And to everyone out there, I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.